Buddy, if you're watching this right now, you are in the future. It's going to take me a couple minutes to get this live and working. You can find that just in a moment. I'll start answering questions and people show up, and this will be a proper live broadcast. But it takes just a little bit for that to occur because I have to. Oh, there you go. There's me talking on the live stream. Okay. Um, Paste that link there. Oh, that kind of worked. Paste this here and publish now. Boom. People should be joining in just one moment. Or I really messed this thing up. Which is not uncommon for me to mess these things up. Uh, Alrighty. So anyway, I just did a live stream over on the main channel, trying to make that part of my rhythm as a little way to let people know that we do this over here, and Saturdays be community days where I interact with people a little bit more. And right now, in theory, I just shared this on Patreon, so some people should be joining in to start asking questions. But as of this moment, no one was here yet to ask questions. Mm, trying to get my camera situation a little bit better. There we go. There's my proper camera. Alrighty, here we go. Majestic Demon. Hello, Sean. Hello, Majestic Demon. Gamer Man. Hey, Sean, I will have questions this week because I rewatched last week and I think I went too far with questions. Have easier questions. Well, I think you asked a lot of questions that were kind of deep, layered questions, and so it was trickier for me to track along with where you're going. Comics Man. Hey, Sean. Hello. Bryce Bailey. Hey, Sean. Hello. Jackson. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well. Where did my questions go? Good afternoon. Christian Arnold, what's your opinion on Captain Phillips? I've never seen Captain Phillips, actually. No particular reason. I just, at the point in time it came out in theaters is right when I had kids. And so it's the type of movie I just didn't get out to see very often. Chloe, what are you doing? It just happens to be open. You can close it if you want. Um, Majestic Demon, but so I don't have. I'm sorry, I don't have any thoughts on it. I can't elaborate more because I just haven't seen it. Majestic Demon, just so you know, I'll be monitoring your nose to see if it tries to escape. It didn't get too bad during the other live stream, so it's probably starting to get there a little bit more as we go into this. Majestic, oh, I thought I clicked on that. Jackson, admit it. We all wanted Stanley and Pam to happen. No, Jackson, that was just you, man. That was just you. Jonas, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well. Procraft, even though you still haven't seen all the episodes, how would you rank the Arrowverse shows? Uh, I mean, like I've seen 2 episodes of Black Lightning, so I really can't rank it. I've seen 1 season of Legends of Tomorrow, so trying to rank them based off that it's tough. I also, I watched Arrow and Flash as they went along, so some of that I've watched very recently, and some of that I watched years ago. And that's really not how I do my rankings. So I try and keep it's it's extraordinarily difficult to compare things that aren't equally fresh on your mind. But I guess if I in Batwoman I've seen I don't know maybe half of this season. I guess I would put Batwoman at the bottom because I think it's a total waste of Batman mythology that focuses on all the wrong things. Then Supergirl, once again, a show that far too often lets the agenda come in front of storytelling. They want to make certain points, and so they write episodes to do that rather than the other way around. It's very frustrating, and that's what really holds those ones back for me is that they make such they just squander so much of potential of having Superman and Batman mythology, and instead um, it's just not even about that. It's about relational drama and stuff like that. That's just an odd direction to take all of it. And then I guess Legends and Black Lightning, just because I haven't seen much of them, but they haven't driven me crazy. And then Arrow and Flash are the two on top. David Patterson, I just watched The Godfather. Perfection. Very cool. And will go well with today's video that drops in 51 minutes. Rich reviews. So have you followed the Dear Leader's advice and injected yourself with disinfectant? I mean, he didn't advise people to do that. If you want to say that he was musing in a very stupid manner, I'm tracking with you, but he didn't look to the camera and say, everyone, inject yourself with disinfectant. And I think that's my frustration with a lot of the discussion going on right now, is that there's legitimate criticisms, but it's all the hyperbole. It's we're not even having the conversation about the actual criticism of what was going on. We're exaggerating what was said to something that's not really what happened, in which case the criticism undermines itself by not even leaning into what really matters. It's all of this is just too important for everyone to be playing these games. Him, media, left, right. I'm just sick of all the games. And I want people to actually work together and stop fighting each other and stop play. It's the games are outrageous and nobody trusts one another. And that's a really big problem when you're trying to deal with everything going on in the world. And you can't trust each other when you're baiting each other, aggressive, and constantly trying to win, get your team to win, as opposed to everyone just being on the side of like, why don't we try and work together to solve really big problems that we're facing right now? It's pretty terrifying to me, actually. Lior, hey Sean, aside from Star Trek, are there movies that bond your family? Well, so Star Trek was one that bonded my family when I was growing up. That was because of Star Trek conventions. Right now, Star Wars is a big one for a bunch of us. We watch Frozen 2 all the time as kind of a family activity. This last week, we've been watching through the Mummy trilogy, Brendan Fraser Mummy trilogy. And anything that my kids can really get into, like even like the Girl Ghostbusters has been a big one for us that kids kind of all get around and watch, and kind of getting them to start to like the stuff that I like growing up and introducing them to things. So it's been fun. Gamerman, which is better, Smallville or Arrow? Ended CW show, best DC show. Which is better? I'd probably say that Smallville overall was a significantly better show. I think it ran a lot more seasons, and I think that not a lot more seasons. It ran 2.5 more seasons, so 25% more episodes of it. But it had its off seasons, but it wasn't like Arrow where it just went off the rails. For Arrow, just lost its track in season 3, and never really got back. There were arcs that I think got better, but in general, it lost its way very early on and never found its way. And Smallville was mostly kind of upward. You're frustrated that they weren't progressing things faster. They'd have an off season, but then they'd have a solid one to come back. So I would think overall Smallville probably was the better show. That, and even a lot of it is that Arrow ended on a note that was just like, it left me a little bit like, why did I even watch this? Because it just ended on such a sour note of them totally losing what the show that they sold me on is not the show they ended with. I mean, it's just the final shot. What were they thinking? What show did they think that they were making? That's where they ended things. And the way that they closed out Oliver's story arc, how could you possibly think that would be satisfying to people that invested 8 seasons with you? Whereas Smallville, once again, it was like there were absolutely disappointing sections, but not in the way that Arrow was just felt like they totally fumbled the conclusion. And they fumbled the middle, too. Bryce Bailey, which fictional city would you most like to live in? Oh, I don't know. I don't have one that immediately comes to mind, because most of them are fun because they're so dangerous. So watching someone fix them is what's exciting. It's not that you'd actually want to go there. So I don't have one that immediately comes to mind. Jonas, would you consider watching through The Walking Dead if I sent you a super chat donation? I mean, it would have to be a very large super chat donation to justify. Like, oh, if I send you in $10, would you spend 80 hours watching a TV show? 80 hours of my time is 80 hours that I'm not doing something else. That's 80 hours I'm not watching a different show for different videos. So, I mean, the donate, like, you just have to think, like, that's what it requires. It's an investment of a lot of my time. So even if I was only making $10 an hour, so $10 for each episode of the show, what is that? The multiplier in that turn into? That's where it's just a lot of time. And that's where you just have to think. I make my money by watching movies and talking about them. And so if I spend 80 hours to do one video, that has to be an incredibly popular video that really ties into my brand. And especially if it's a show that I just chose not to watch. Like I watched enough and I was like, okay, I liked some of this, but then I just lost interest. Then you're having to convince me that it's a business thing. The reason I'm doing it for business reasons. And that's a very large super chat to be able to get there. David Patterson, I watched The Invisible Man last night and I loved it. Awesome. Ethan, hey Sean, hello. Majestic Demon, do you reuse ideas for your video poll suggestions? Yeah, I do if they're ones that I want to see. If I think it's a good video, then I recycle them. Either on the main or on Patreon. I'll look at the previous month and I'll say, wow, I was surprised this one didn't win. I'll just throw it in there. I mean, actually, you can look at some of the stuff that I do intentionally. This month's Patreon poll, the 3 videos ideas that I thought I think those would be hit videos that I would enjoy making, that I can envision how that would work to really work for the channel. I put those 3 on top. That's why the 3 that are on top are on top. And so then I'll probably make all 3 of those videos in the near future. So I'm doing some of it as I want to create videos that you guys want. I'm also just trying to think. I think you guys have good ideas. So the good ideas I want to resurface, the ones that are a little bit, if it's a video that I see it and I go, I don't, that feels off brand. Like a lot of times I need to do, one thing I might need to do starting, maybe I'll make this a new thing, is have 2 Patreon videos. One is an exclusive. You guys vote on which exclusive you guys get. That it's those videos that you guys want, but maybe a little bit more niche. So some of those ones I don't think would make great content from, I'll be honest. Like if I do a review of 12 Angry Men on my main channel, or if I rank the Before franchise, they're not going to do very well on my main channel. And so then I'm doing it because you guys want me to. And if you guys want to see that, that's a different thought process than what do I think will be successful on my main channel. A video talking about my predictions for phases 4 and 5, I think will be a hit video for my channel. A video discussing movies that I think were meaningful to my career works well on my channel. Ranking or reviewing, I don't know, I don't remember all the ones that sometimes so you guys ask things that you're interested in, but that's not the same thing as what will be successful for my main channel. And so I'm weighing a lot of that stuff. And so when I see something, I go, that's a hit. That's something I went for. But like I said, I know David Patterson, he's asking me about 12 Angry Men constantly. I've been thinking, should I just review that as an exclusive for Patreon? Maybe do a 1-minute little preview for Instagram and tell people it's an exclusive. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I think that could be something that would honor you guys, especially David, who's been asking about it for a while, longtime supporter, always here in the live streams. What can I do to honor you guys that are making the channel possible, especially right now where things are very unstable in the world? That's very much on my mind. How do I add value for you guys? So anyway, I'm literally thinking out loud to you guys. Rich Reviews, who would you cast in a Star Trek DS9 reboot? I wouldn't be able to pull that off on the top of my head. I'd really have to think about it. It's not, because I'd have to. Fan casts are not easy to do because you're trying to run through a list of characters and actors, and that's cross-referencing 2 lists off the top of my head is not, like, I'd spend a lot of time when I do my fan cast videos just trying to think through it. But like the guy that plays Martian Manhunter, maybe he could be good at Cisco, but that's just trying to think who's someone that's played a commanding lead. That's literally that, but that's just something that immediately came to mind, but it's not a deep suggestion. I couldn't run that off the top of my head. David Patterson, I watched Extraction yesterday. It was okay. Just wanted more character development. Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, I mean that would be the weakness. It's designed to be an experiential, like go on the ride movie, and if you can't just get in on the action for a movie like that, then you potentially would want more. Landon, something about you saying to watch Extraction and the screen says skip it was just hilarious. Yeah, I'm my the videos where I make the most mistakes are actually my movie reviews because there's the most moving parts. Um, outside of the way that I do my rankings, the way I can film them in a way that it's easy to edit them real quick and not make mistakes. But movie reviews, there's a lot more kind of like cuts and oopsies and stuff that I make, and so that and movie like little cards that I have to update. So haven't done one for a while, made some mistakes. Gregory, as a big MCU fan, as much as I'm excited for the new projects, I'm worried about Stark and Rogers gap that is missing. Most of the best stories were involved them. Yeah, I mean that's entirely true, but at the same time, they they're it's not like Iron Man was an A-lister when they put that movie out. They just were successful at developing the character and they gave him a lot of stories. And so they just need to find someone that it's not like they've lost their talent that they had before. So this is experimental. It's tough to be as excited as we were before because we knew what to expect, but I absolutely think that they'll be able to keep being good. Will it be as good? Probably not, but it doesn't need to be. They did something incredible, and you're not always going to be the best at something. So if you're just good at it, that's still good. Jonas, will you do a series finale review for Clone Wars since the finale arc looks like it will be packaged all together into one final film? I'm planning on doing a season review. I mean, I plan to do a video. I'll say that. We'll see what happens once it airs to see what I decide to do once I see it. And what's the best video that I feel like I can do? Because I'm not as big of a fan as the audience is. So that makes it a little bit tricky. Because when there's a gap between where you're at in the reviewer for these kind of fan favorites, especially with a channel like mine, it gets pretty intense in the comment section sometimes. But so it's very much on my mind. I'll have a video. Jackson, who would you cast in a self-quarantine horror movie where a family gets on each other's nerves and then goes after each other? Who do I think could go crazy right now, do The Shining and kill their family? The name I keep going to is Chris Pratt because he seems we haven't he did a movie that Vincent D'Onofrio directed last year where he was the villain. It was a little bit crazy and it is a Western. And so he's got a dark side to him. So I think he can be the obviously likable, fun guy at the beginning, and it might be fun to see him go fully against type and go Shining mode. Bryce, do you have a favorite Peter Berg movie? I don't think so. He's not he makes movies that I really enjoy when I watch him that one time, but he doesn't make movies that I go back and rewatch. So inherently to that makes it tricky. He was involved with Friday Night Lights, the TV show, I believe too. That was filmed around here. So if I can include the TV show in there, then I would go with Friday Night Lights, the TV show, because literally the stadium that they filmed that's in the opening credits, I can see out my window right here, and I can hear the drums on Friday nights when the Friday Night Lights actually happen. I hear them through that window right there. David Patterson, I watched The Irishman last week's stream. It is my third favorite movie of 2019. Very cool. Very cool. Not surprised. Not surprised. That seems like a movie that you would enjoy. Damien, hey Sean, thank you for all the phenomenal content. Love your thoughts. Awesome. Great. I very much appreciate that. And hopefully I can keep it up. I was even just yesterday looking at my brainstorm idea list. I actually need to go back through it and see if I've got more kind of ideas to fill in there. But hopefully I can keep having great content during this time when we don't have new movies. Jackson, did you watch the NFL draft at all? No, not one bit. Didn't follow it. Not really my thing. I'll play fantasy football if we have a season next year, but I don't really follow the specifics. Did you know Gal Gadot played the Mara role in the Israeli version of Aquaman? I did not. I'm not really sure what that's referring to. So that is interesting to me. Ethan, I know this isn't your thing, but do you have a least favorite Chris Hemsworth movie? No, I don't think so. I mean, it'd be something like Of the ones I've seen, Vacation or Ghostbusters, where he's a minor role. But I don't hate those movies. But like I didn't see The Huntsman and some of those other things he's done. Um, but he doesn't have it. I can't think of one that I've seen that he was in that I hated. Like a lot of I enjoy just slick blockbusters. So some of the stuff that he's done that other people have kind of crapped on, Men in Black 4 and stuff like that, I didn't hate. So I don't have a strong negative opinion. But I have skipped out on some of the stuff that he did that was a little bit on the duller side or not so good. Bryce Bailey, what movie would you want to make a how to fix on but wouldn't because you don't think it would do well? Trying to think through what movies would I specifically would be satisfying for me to do. So that'd be something that would be outside of comic book movies, Star Wars, big franchise stuff. Like one that kind of comes to mind, I doing my own pitch for a follow-up to Aliens. I actually have notes on that. Like sometimes that's where those came from, is sometimes I just write those on my own. I got, without any context, I'll just write notes on what I think would be a fun idea for a movie. So I actually, in my brain, I think I brainstormed a 4-movie follow-up to Aliens, my own version. And it was 4 movies. It was a trilogy that are aliens. It's about this kind of world post so there's the first movie would be like a glass, or it's like a split surprise sequel. Like you watch it and you don't know that it's a sequel to Aliens, and then you get to the end of it and it's revealed that it's an Aliens. But it's like this post-apocalyptic world kind of, and you don't know exactly what's happening. It's a lot of secrecy, smaller film, and then it's revealed at the end that it's follow-up to Aliens, and then it's a trilogy of films about kind of the war with the aliens. So I don't know that would be a hit video on my channel, but it's interesting in my mind to think about it. Majestic Demon. So today I went out into the world, guns a firing, to go through all the pubs so I could get to Walmart and purchase Dr. Sleep. Fun. I was supposed to own Dr. Sleep. My wife got on Target and they had this buy 3 movies for the price of 2 sale. And I told her the 3 movies I wanted, and I guess she didn't click send on it. So Dr. Sleep was going to be one of them, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so I didn't get 3 of these movies I was pumped about getting. Comics Man, I'm currently watching the 2nd season of Daredevil, and the Punisher character really stand out for me. Should I check out his own show? I mean, if you enjoy Punisher on Daredevil season 2, absolutely you should check it out. It's very much follows up his plot that happened in Daredevil season 2. I don't think it's as good as Daredevil season 2, but I mean, of course, if you're enjoying Daredevil season 2 and Punisher specifically, you should check it out. I mean, Karen shows up and everything, but I mean, yeah. Artish, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name. I'm very sorry if I mispronounced it. Hi, Sean. Is it weird that I like Michael Bay? He's had some real clunkers, but between The Rock, Armageddon, Bad Boys 2, The Island, Transformers 1 and 3, 13 Hours, he's made too many movies I like. No, it's not weird at all. You just listed it right there. The Rock, really great 90s action movie. I mean, memorable, quotable, great action. Armageddon, I love Armageddon. Bad Boys 2, one of the best big, flashy action movies of all time. 13 Hours, really solid movie where he restrained himself quite a bit. And I mean, I think you can throw in there Pain and Gain as well. The first Bad Boys, I think you can throw in there. And all the hate towards him, that comes down to he just did all of those crappy Transformers sequels. If you remove those movies from his filmography, then you have, I think he's got a positive batting average. Like he's doing really well. It's just so watered down. It was just so frustrating that he stuck around on those movies when they just felt like they were corporate products rather than passion projects. But I don't think it's weird at all. He's done a lot of good. When they announced that he's doing a new movie that's not Transformers, I get excited because I think there's a lot of potential there. Timothy, would you consider ranking all 42 Spider-Man suits from PS4 game from least favorite to most? No, because it's too niche and it's not something I would be that interested in. A 42 item ranking list, if you play it out, what I have to do to make that video, I have to go into the game and play through all 42 suits. So I don't have all 42 suits, so I would have to do whatever I need to do to get 10 more suits. Then I would have to play with each of those suits for about 10 minutes and write down notes. So you just multiply it out. How long does it take me to get 10 more suits? and then 10 times 42 plus 5 minutes to write my notes after I play with each one of the suits or whatever. You just map it out and you go, that's a long time to do a video that's is kind of niche. And it's not one that I gravitate towards. And since I don't have a video game channel, it's off brand. It's just really off brand for me to do that deep dive of the video game video. So I wouldn't be the right person for it. Jonas, what is the quarantine like in the community where you live? It's not you wouldn't if you just went out and about, you'd be a little bit like, oh, there's not too many people out and about, and why are some of them wearing masks? But it's not very interesting. My neighbors. I see my neighbors more than I normally do because they're standing on their sidewalks talking to each other across the street from each other. There's a little bit more stuff like that, but people are still going for walks. The pool's not open even when the sun's out, so that's a little bit weird. If you go to the school that's 2 blocks over there where my kids go, there's always people over there playing basketball. If you go out on the streets, there's people driving around. They just have masks on. So it doesn't seem very interesting out there really where I'm at. Even when I went to pick up pizza yesterday, there were not very many people wearing masks. Like I was like, oh, I'm wearing a mask. Am I a weirdo? Rich review. So far, my favorite film of 2020 is still 1917. Not surprising. I thought it was one of the best movies it's a 2019 movie technically, but for the broad audience, it was 2020. So, would make sense. I don't have it on my 2020 list, so because I saw it in 2019, and that's what it's considered a release from that year. Bryce Braley, are you more interested in Tarantino directing a Star Trek movie or Star Trek 4? I don't know that I think either one of those movies is happening. If right now I had to pick which one of those two movies I got, I would have to really know who is doing the Star Trek 4 to know which one I'm more interested in. It's tough for me to get too excited for the Star Trek 4 because I just don't know where they're going with it. They don't seem to be profitable up for it to be an ongoing franchise, and it doesn't seem like they're building towards something to close it out. So it might as well be done now, or we could do more. And so I just would need to know what the pitches actually are for each. The novelty of Tarantino doing Star Trek is very interesting to me, but just having something that's a continuation of the thing before that fulfills it a little better is also interesting. So I would need to know a little bit more about the pitch. If right now I only get to see one and I get to see it tomorrow and I just wave my magic wand and I get one of those movies tomorrow, I think novelty would make me say, I just want to see what Tarantino would do. Damon, do you have any dream MCU team-up movies a la Hulk and Thor Ragnarok, Wanda and Doctor Strange 2? I think it would probably be what something, Daredevil and Punisher with Spider-Man, something like that. I really enjoyed the worldview of those characters and the innocence of Spider-Man. I think that's something that just kind of comes to mind for me. Chris Arnold, if not, or the answer is not, it's fine, but did you ask your wife about a top 10 of her favorite movies? I don't remember. She a lot of times makes lists with me. She brainstorms with me on a lot of these. I'll text her right now. Top 10 favorite movies. Hers are always kind of interesting the way that she goes with stuff, but she's very much, it's a kind of very much a woman in her mid 30s, what her list, you'd expect her list to look like. It was surprising is because the video that drops in 28 minutes is going to be 5 perfect movies. So she made her list and I was like surprised, like she had Coco on there and stuff like that she's really come around to Coco over the last 6 months. Jackson, Sean, 2024. Maybe I need to run for president. I would hate that. I like to make progress in politics. Is somewhat built into it is gridlock. So, David Patterson, I'm going to watch The Godfather Part 2 after this. What should I expect? I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I mean, it tells the backstory, which is pretty cool. Now we see a lot of prequels and stuff, but you're talking about before prequels were super common. They did a prequel to The Godfather with Robert De Niro and Marlon Brando growing up. So that's pretty cool. I haven't watched in a long time. So I couldn't give you a deeper dive into it, but a very, at the time, different way to do a sequel. What's your favorite Tony Scott film? I like Tony Scott more than I like Ridley Scott. I think just as am I more likely to like what Tony Scott did or a Ridley Scott movie? I'd probably go Tony Scott. Ridley Scott, I think a couple of these like heavy hitters that I love. Tony Scott is more than I think gets on base for me a little bit better. Probably go Top Gun. I mean, maybe it's a little bit too safe of a pick or too much of a product of my time of when I grew up and nostalgia for my childhood. But Top Gun has a pretty special place in my heart. Bryce, which movies time travel logic made the most and least sense to you, respectively? Um, Off the top of my head, I don't. I it's a little bit tough one to kind of come up with. I think I think Back to the Future kind of they stuck to it, so it kind of works. But I'm not sure that there's a lot of logic to if you go back in time that it gives you a week to fix your breaking the timeline. Like I don't like it works really well for the movie in that context, but why on earth would the timeline spin like you've got 1 week before you vanish from the picture? Like great ticking clock for a movie. I don't know if it makes any sense in reality though. Um but most sense I don't know. Most interesting time paradox, I think, is the original Terminator with what how exactly did this play out? Like, was there always just a loop in the timeline? And I don't think that works with some of the philosophy of the later movies. How does John Connor have a father? Stuff like that, or did John Connor have a different father? And the timeline got broken. Like, I think there's some interesting stuff in there, but um, Ethan, what's your favorite Arrow villain? Mine is Prometheus, with a close second being Slade, then Malcolm. Malcolm is my favorite. I liked. He's a true believer in his cause that becomes kind of an anti-hero at other points in time. That's still a true believer. There's something guiding him that it's not that he went crazy. I did not. I'm not a Prometheus fan really, and I've said that in my rankings and everything else, but I think Malcolm, they did the best job of like what drove this guy to. It's kind of a Thanos type plan. Jackson, I assume the answer is no, but have you seen the new show Dave? I don't even know what that is. Is it based off the movie? I'll look it up real quick. I love the movie Dave, so I don't know if there's any connection there at all. Dave TV show. Late 20s, rappers. No clue what this is. So, no, I have not seen it. Don't know anything about it. Have no thoughts on it. Bryce, is there a character they should make a show about in the Arrowverse that would renew your interest in the CW DC shows? No. Like, I'll check out this Superman show that they're working on. That inherently is a little bit interesting to me because he's Superman. And a lot of Arrowverse has felt like a lot of, hey, let's do the side character and then let's do the B list, get the B list shows rather than the A list. Flash, I think, being an exception because Green Arrow is kind of like B-list Batman, and Supergirl is like let's do a girl version of Superman. Well, if you actually do Superman, I'm intrigued and interested, and so I'll give it a shot. And I like Tyler's version of Superman. Like literally, my only criticisms of him are I wish he was a bigger guy, and because it's weird to me when I'm a lot bigger than the person they have playing Superman, and then likewise, I don't think they've written him well. But that's not his performance. So I'm open to that show. But I think they just hurt the timeline, the show so much, but with so many really bad plot lines and wearing them, doing these 22 episode seasons where they just spread themselves too thin, and that's where they burn me up. Davidson, I rewatched Jojo Rabbit after I saw Little Women since it was the only 2020 Best Picture nominee I had not watched in 2020. Cool. Jonas, favorite crime movie? Kind of want to hear some recommendations to go into the genre. Thanks, Sean. Favorite crime movies. That could mean a lot of different things. If you're talking about like law stuff, in the 90s, the John Grisham stuff, there's a bunch of really good ones on the lawyer side to it. The Firm, A Time to Kill, I thought were both really good. Likewise, The Lincoln Lawyer, which was from a different author from about 10 years ago. If you like the TV show Bosch, they're actually the characters in the books are related to each other. The Lincoln Lawyer and the Bosch character. So Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey from about 10 years ago. I don't know, crime movie is a little bit, it's broad and vague. It could mean a number of different things because, you know, superhero movies are crime movies because the supervillains are committing crimes. So those are some that come to mind off the top of my head. Landon, what would you call the Unbreakable Split Glass trilogy? I mean, I did a ranking of them. I don't remember what I called it in there. There's the one of the names for it is based off the name of the platform of the accident at the beginning of Unbreakable is one of the names for it. I think I called it the Unbreakable trilogy. But I think Unbreakable trilogy is the cleanest name for it. Gamer Max, Glass spoilers. So if you haven't seen Glass, please cover your ears. A character I didn't want to see die is David Dunn. Yeah, me too. That was I left him out of my video from the other day, but that was a mistake on my part. He should have been in my video. Bryce, have you seen Body Lies with Leo and Ridley Scott? No, I have not. I know what movie you're talking about. I haven't seen it. Have you seen Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood? No, I haven't. I mean, back in the day when I was in high school, people talked about it all the time. But it was what I just happened to have missed that film. Gamer Man, have you seen The Wiz? No, another one that I haven't seen. Another one that I was like, it showed up on TNT cable all the time, but was it like a modern, kind of like a retelling of The Wizard of Oz in an urban setting? I believe that's what it was. I just haven't happened to have seen it. Also wanted to say thank you for your recommendation of Community and the podcast. A really great show. Keep going with the podcast. Looking forward to it every week. Oh, awesome. Very cool. I bet they're a lot of fun. It's like I can talk about different stuff. Like live streams give me an opportunity to answer questions, but it's like real quick. And then the podcast, I can talk with with Griffin and dive into more subjects more. Gamer Man, have you seen Taxi? One of my guilty pleasures from 2000 movie called Taxi from 2004. I think. Oh, is it a comedy? I think it's a comedy from 2004. I haven't seen it, but let me look this up to see which one I'm thinking of, or you're thinking of, because I'm not sure what I'm thinking of. Taxi 2004. Okay, gotcha. No, I have not. I haven't watched a lot of the Jimmy Fallon movies other than his baseball movie with Drew Barrymore. Gamer Man, have you ever played Lego Marvel Superheroes? No, we haven't played that one. We played the Avengers. Avengers is the Marvel game that we've played, I believe. And then on the Switch, we've played Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but we haven't played Marvel Superheroes. David Patterson, I thought the twist in The Invisible Man was super predictable. Yeah, I mean, I don't... yeah, perhaps. I mean, I'd have to know exactly which one you're referring to, but I wouldn't say that it was entirely... You knew, because obviously you're watching the movie, you know that a twist is coming. You know that they're going to do something with it. So I don't think they were meant to be like earth-shattering final conclusions. Gamer Man, I feel like you're re-ranking of all those franchises only to have shorter videos. I mean, it sounds... I don't know if that's meant to be actually see that's not... At first, I haven't done them yet, but like I did these rankings in 2017, and they're 40 minutes long. So it's to say that they're just longer is a deep that's true, but that's also to say that the pacing, the analysis, the nature of them, they are not the same as what I do now, which is I try and talk about the movie for a certain amount of time, have the video be a certain length, move at a certain pace with, I mean, they don't have B-roll on them. I didn't have my certain criteria for how I do things. So I'm not I don't know. I read your question is a criticism, which, I'm not really sure where you're going with that. They're the first I did of a type of video. They're before those became a hit video for me. And I changed the way that I did my rankings after I did those ones. I did them a way that I used to do them. I changed how I do them. And then my videos got a lot more popular because they were better quality videos that people watched more, shared more. And so it's not just to make them shorter, it's to make them match the ones that I currently do and have them up to my current standards. So is it to make them shorter? Yes. Is it only to have shorter videos? That's a deep misunderstanding of the complexity of kind of how I make my videos and everything that kind of goes into them. Since you're re-ranking movies, do you know that there's a fifth direct-to-video Jaws titled Jaws 5 Cruel Jaws released in the mid-90s? Did you include the direct-to-video sequels of... you did include the direct-to-video sequels to Home Alone. Yeah, but the difference is Jaws 5 Cruel Jaws isn't actually a Jaws movie. It's like it's an unofficial sequel that people presented it as a sequel, but it's not actually. It's not the same thing as the direct-to-video Home Alone movies that were Home Alone movies. Live Free or Die Hard is a fine movie, but it feels more like a Mission Impossible movie than a Die Hard movie. I wouldn't agree with that. I think there's things about it that are more fantastical, and in that sense, that's true. But there's a lot of distinctives of what makes for a Mission Impossible movie. They're just not that are not in Live Free or Die Hard. So I wouldn't. As a general statement, I think that there's a lot of that. There are just not that many points of reference. Yeah, man. Do you ever think we will get a sixth Die Hard to close out the franchise? I really don't know, because they're always talking about it. They're always, we're going to do a final one called McClane. We're going to do a prequel, and it's going to be bookended with little segments about Bruce Willis. They're always talking about it. I don't think we'll ever get a satisfying conclusion. I can say that. Game Man, I think Kelsey Grammer should return as Beast in the MCU, as he's a highly underrated actor. He's not as popular as Hugh Jackman, and they just used CGI model like with J.K.'s appearance. I just don't know what the benefit is. Like, hey, let's get this guy that played the character 15 years ago and bring him back. He's not iconic in that role the way that J.K. Simmons was iconic as J. Jonah Jameson. So it would seem odd if we're just randomly bringing some people back. So I just don't know what the specific benefit would be as opposed to recasting him. Majestic Demon. So what did you watch this week? I watched Iron Man, The Jungle, and Braveheart. I watched The Mummy 1 and 2, Mummy and Mummy Returns. Watched Attack of the Clones. And I watched a lot of Community. Bryce, with Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse moving to October 22nd, do you think Disney Marvel will move its MCU release date schedule for that same day? They already did. I mean, they've already reshuffled. I mean, there were so many announcements yesterday, but yeah, I mean, they're not going to release 2 Marvel property movies on the same day. But I mean, it's all shuffling. Everything is going to just keep shuffling constantly. Tom's Productions. I just watched Ryan O'Toole's Best of the Decade. Which movie wins? Very cool. That was a long live stream. I didn't know I was committing to like 4 hours when he did that. Bryce, I've seen your ranking of the Jack Ryan movies. What's your ranking of the Jack Ryan actors, including Krasinski? I mean, Harrison Ford, John Krasinski, Ben Affleck, Chris Pine, or Alec Baldwin, I guess, behind. I don't know. I mean, I don't like to do it off the top of my head because I haven't watched those movies since I did that ranking a year and a half ago. But something like that. I'm not quite sure where I'd put Alec Baldwin. David Patterson, I watched the original Aladdin and loved it. Then the live action remake and liked it, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again. That's what I thought when I first watched it, but it's like on loop in my house, actually. Rich Reviews, how would you pitch a live action Pac-Man movie? I wouldn't. There's not a plot. So, I mean, so I wouldn't pitch to make a movie out of it. I don't think every brand justifies a movie. So when you have a video game that doesn't really have a plot, it's just about the experience. Like, well, how would you pitch a Tetris movie? I wouldn't. That's not. You're just inventing a standalone story when you do things like that. Rich Reviews. Here's an idea. Rank the Sonic TV series. You know, as you've heard me say many times before, the problem with it is I would have to watch all of them, and I'm not going to do that. Because it's watching dozens and dozens of Sonic episodes to do a ranking that there's not very many people out there that have watched all those TV shows. So the ranking doesn't really appeal to any one person. There might be someone that like one of the shows, but they haven't seen the other one. So then that doesn't really matter to them. Like they didn't watch the Sonic shows I watched in the 90s, and I haven't watched the current ones. So it's watching a ton of stuff for a video that doesn't have a real clear defined audience. Bryce, is there a horror franchise you know of that actually gets better with the sequels? You know, the third Friday the 13th or third Nightmare on Elm Street is often regarded as better than the original one, and from people that love the original one, they think the third one is also great. but that's not the franchise as a whole. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one. If you think through the iconic ones, they're not, they a lot of them just get really bad as they go along. So, and then maybe they have a revival that gets better, but I can't think of one where it's like Fast and the Furious, where people like thought at number 5 suddenly it got a lot better. I can't think of one like that. Comics Man. I'm also currently doing an X-Men binge because I didn't see any of them. Oh, very cool. They're hit and miss. Some of them are really good. Some of them are not really good. Tom's Productions. What put Toy Story 4 over Toy Story for you? I mean, it's what I said in the videos. I mean, like, I don't have like a secret reason beyond what I said before. It's exactly what I said in those videos of the Toy Story 4 is much like Finding Nemo, a movie that's about parenting and letting go. And it on the surface, you don't think about it that way, but the themes are much more ones that resonate for people in my phase of life than, say, the original Toy Story. And so it just hit me on a deeper level. Gregory, as a fan of the MCU, I'm a little concerned about the new projects. Or weird ask this one. Answer this one. Richard Reeves, how large has your beard ever gotten? This is the biggest my beard has ever been. This is the longest I've grown it out, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or what, but it's certainly even thicker than it's ever been before. Majestic Demon, I debated watching Mission Impossible 3 on Netflix the other day, but I chose not to because I haven't seen the previous 2. There's more movies, that I haven't seen. You can watch the third one without having seen the previous 2. They're not afterwards. You can't watch 4 without watching 3. Doesn't really work, and then they start tying them together in 5 and 6. But you can watch 3 without watching 1 and 2. They're not designed to be seen in order. Greg Weiss, have you ever heard of website Cameo? I think it would be a great way for you to make extra money that is not very time consuming. I've heard of it. I just don't know. Like, I don't want to have one more thing that I'm promoting out to the world that's not directly on brand. I have mothers from time to time being like, "Hey, I'll pay you $20 if you make a video for happy birthday video for my kid or something like that." Like, I've had things like that happen before, and so I've done some of that. And then here on Patreon, you can. One of the categories at $25, you can do a 30-minute video chat with me each month. I mean, I did one of those yesterday with Rich Reviews. And several other people here have done those with me from time to time. So it's a kind of a matter of, to get people to know I'm even on there, I would have to promote it myself. And that's not something I'm looking to do. Alex Pitt, are you a fan of the Cornetto trilogy? If you are, which is your favorite and least favorite? I have a ranking of the Edgar Wright movies, which is mostly the Cornetto trilogy. I don't remember how I ranked them. I haven't watched them since I did that one a few years back. So I don't know off the top of my head. They're all really good. David Patterson, is The Hunt good? I have liked all the Blumhouse horror movies that I've seen so far, but the Rotten Tomato score on The Hunt doesn't excite me. It's divisive. It's not great. It has, I really enjoy that it was written by someone on the left and someone on the right. Like, they had 2 screenwriters, and each of them kind of come from both sides. So the movie takes shots with its social commentary at everybody. All of the pouncing, all of the team playing, all of the not giving grace to other people, all of that. They have all of it. But I think it's uneven in the treatment of the action side to it and some of the cameos. So there's some stuff about it was really odd with the way that they did it that I think holds it back while having some good things at the same time. First reviews, are you planning to watch the quasi-sequel to Braveheart called Robert the Bruce, even though we have another film from a few years ago called Outlaw King? So if you don't know, guys know what he's talking about, there's a movie coming out where the guy that played Robert the Bruce in Braveheart is starring in a movie called Robert the Bruce. So it's like an unofficial sequel to Braveheart. Though Outlaw King from a couple years, or a year ago back or whatever, has Chris Pine starring as Robert the Bruce. I haven't decided yet. They've actually, I've got a screener link for it, so I could review it for my channel with a screener link, but I haven't decided yet. Movie reviews I'm kind of intentionally not worrying about doing movie reviews right now. And if I don't want to review it, I'm probably not going to review it. That's kind of what I'm doing. And I'm allowing right now to help give me some of that freedom for when movies start coming out again, so that people don't expect me to just review everything anymore. and doing a better job of making the content I want to make rather than making the content I feel that I have to make. So that's anyway. I'm using it out loud. Comic fans, I'm doing a binge of the X-Men movies. I really liked First Class. Had fun with Days of Future Past. What should I expect from Apocalypse? Disappointment. You should expect disappointment. Compared to those movies, it's easily the weakest of those three movies. Huge step backwards. Uneven story. There's a really good plot about Magneto and what's going on with him, and everything else I think is really disappointing. Is it annoying you that people repeat the same questions you've already answered lots of times in your other videos or Q&As? Yeah. I don't like to, as a single word answer, it can be frustrating. Some of it's the nature of the work that I do. I put out a ton of content, and it's a lot more than you even realize, because people ask me these same questions. Have I watched Clone Wars? What do I think about season 7 of Clone Wars? What do I think about season 6 of The Flash? Hey, what do you think about these dates changing? Have you seen these movies? Even if you watch everything on Patreon and my Q&As and my podcast, you'd realize I'm answering a lot of these same questions over and over again. But I'm also answering them in DMs also all the time. Hey, when are you going to watch Walking Dead? Hey, when are you going to watch Game of Thrones? And it can be frustrating when it's someone says, hey, I love your content. And then they ask something that, like, to me, I answer it 20 times per week. Or some of the ones that I can get frustrated where they go, I love your videos and your rankings. Hey, why? Like one of the ones in today's Q&A on the main channel, someone's like, hey, when are you going to rank the Jaws movies? Well, I did rank the Jaws movies. You just haven't searched for it. It's out there and it's not ancient. It's not super old on my channel. So some things like that can be frustrating for me because I just don't know why someone didn't search for it. Because, I mean, obviously I've got a ton of rankings and there's clearly a big archive of them. And so if that's the one you really want, why wouldn't you search for it? Other ones, they're not easy to search for. Like some of the stuff I talk about in the podcast, you can't easily search for it. The Q&As, obviously you can't search for it. So I get why people ask those ones over and over again. It's also frustrating when I'm doing a Q&A on the main channel and people are spamming a question that I've already answered in it. And so I'm like, guys, please stop asking the same question. I can't find new questions. That's very frustrating for me. Okay. I'm going to have to fly through this. I'm only like halfway through these questions and we're already about an hour into this deal. Potential idea for your podcast, you and Griffin doing a Civil War style fantasy football draft for the MCU characters. That could be fun. I need to find some creative stuff to do on there because like we don't have new movies to discuss. So we need to like kind of come up with it stuff besides just movie news. And because all the movie news is these movies have been delayed. David Patterson, I've seen all the Taika Waititi movies except Eagle vs. Shadow. The only one I didn't love was Thor Ragnarok. I still liked it, but thought the comedy ruined some of the drama moments. I would agree with that. Bryce Braley, do you think that what do you think was the worst thing they did with Captain America and Iron Man respectively in the MCU? What do you think is the worst thing they did with Captain America? Worst thing? I mean, I think having Captain America kiss Peggy's niece and then having end up with Peggy was like a pretty big oopsie. With Iron Man, not really digging deep in and addressing that he created Ultron. Luke's lightsaber. What are your thoughts and hopes for Mandalorian season 2? I hope we can dig deeper into a little bit of mythology, tie into some of the TV shows and stuff. I want some answers about Baby Yoda. I think you have to kind of like what's going on here more so than just move around with him. So yeah, it's stuff like that. I just dig deeper into the mythology. Tom's Productions, are you going to make a TikTok account? I have a TikTok account. I'm on there. I don't use it much. I'm not looking to grow following over there. I don't get it. My brain's not wired for it, but I have an account and I have stuff on there. I've done literally nothing to promote it, but I do have one. Gregory Weiss, I did not mean to repeat the question. I thought I deleted the first one because I didn't think it was well written. No worries. Would you ever do a video of your driving around your hometown showing areas where they filmed TV, movies and TV shows? That could be fun. Maybe I'll think about that one. Maybe a blog for my second channel that could be interesting because there's several that are literally right around here. And I've thought about what I could do with that and how I could tie it in a way that would be interesting to people. But I'm not even sure what it would be, but it could be fun. Christian, our favorite sports teams. My parents are from they're from Denver, so Denver Broncos. I have to say that is a Chandler. That's locked in as one that has to be said. David Madison, I watched Cabin in the Woods. The last 30 minutes were insane. I loved it, but the first hour didn't make me very interested. Cool. Landon Pennington, what is a DC comic storyline that you think they should have made into an animated movie? Long Halloween. Long Halloween would be the one that would immediately come to mind for me, as one that I think it's kind of make it as a follow up to Batman Year One. You're trying to kind of have a little bit of that continuity there. Rich Reviews, have you ever wanted to see an animated film, Calvin and Hobbes? I think that could work. I think that's one that there's room there to maybe tell a story. If the creator, I think, is the one that's like poo-poos on those ideas and doesn't want them to do things like that. But yeah. Landon Pearson, would you call Alien 3 a Fincher movie because there was some news of him discrediting it? Yeah, I mean, it is a film that he directed, so technically, of course, it is. But when they did the Alien quadrilogy set, where they did crazy, insanely good documentaries on all the movies. He didn't participate. He won't discuss it in interviews. It's clearly not a movie that he's proud of, that he wants to be associated with, but he did direct it. But, there was so many problems on behind the scenes, the production of it. That's why we got a movie that's so infuriating. There's the reason why that they would put out the William Gibson script that's totally different story for Alien 3. The reason they would do that is because it's just a very troubled film that even the problems with it aren't really his fault. Comics Man, thoughts on Matthew Vaughn? I personally really like him due to his style in the comic book movies he's made. Yeah, I really like his high energy take on things. I really enjoyed First Class. That's my favorite of his movies, but distinct style. I'm a fan. I didn't like the second Kingsman movie, but in general, I really like his stuff. Matt G, are you going to try and get that Dark Universe off the ground, the horror franchise? No, it died on immediately. It died within 2 weeks of The Mummy coming out and then being like, this doesn't work. I think they tried to do some last minute promotion to be like, hey guys, look at all these movies we're trying to do. Go see The Mummy. If you like The Mummy, we got a bunch more. But they had to have known that they had a really bad movie on their hands that wasn't going to connect with people. And so it came out, didn't connect with people, and so it was dead. Greg Weiss, I know you are very busy, but I love the new Apple TV series, Chris Evans show, Defending Jacob, which strongly recommended. Messaged you about the trailer the other day, and it did not disappoint. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about it. I just like, as you said, there's just a lot of things out there that I'm trying to do right now. So I just don't know that it's one it's on my radar at this time. But Apple Plus, I think, they're doing a good job of getting these auteur directors and creating good stuff. The first 3 episodes dropped yesterday, and then it drops weekly on Fridays. So I think that's the model that they did before. Aside from Chris Stuckman, who would you like to have on your podcast with you? I mean, anybody that's kind of big in the movie space, I think would be interesting to have on there. So, John Campea, Jeremy Johns, Dan Murrell. I mean, any of these guys, I would enjoy having them. Some of them I just don't even have contact information. Some of it's like, would they perceive me as a competing show? Like with John Campea, I wouldn't want to have him on to talk about movie news because that's what he does on his. So that'd be a weird thing to kind of do. So I just want to interview him, and I've talked to him about interviewing him before, and he was positive when I mentioned him. Christian Allard, what is an underrated movie that you love? I mean, some of these videos I've done over the last couple of weeks of what to watch in quarantine, movies that everybody must watch, and stuff like that. I think those have some of my underrated picks in there. I could just list off. I think some of the stuff like by Van Damme, like Time Cop and Under Siege from Seagal, are underrated because the actors themselves are kind of goofy, and so then people underrate all of their stuff because of that. But I've got some of those videos that mention some of those other movies, but off the top of my head, I just don't even know where to start because there's a ton of movies I could potentially mention. David Madison, Part 1. The only Tarantino movie I have physical copy of is Django, but I want to get a physical copy of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Since I feel like it's one of the only ones I rewatch the most, even though it's only my 4th favorite. Richard Views. So, do you think we should move the election this November? I mean, I don't know if there's a reason this far out to move it. I don't. I think anything that simplifies the campaign process and everything like that. I don't think there's any reason that. I don't think. I just don't know there's any reason to do so. Unless we're in the middle of a resurgence of the virus in November, in which case then people can't go out to vote. That's a problem. But there's even with that, there's ways to say let's not do voting day, let's do voting 3 days and have the polls open 3 days. People have to be 6 feet apart or something like that. There's things you can do to that. I just don't know that there's a reason to stretch it out. Matt G, do you think there's any gimmicks that movies theaters could try to attract more customers? Current situation aside, I mean, I think people are tired of the gimmicks. I mean, 3D was a gimmick to increase movie prices and stuff like that. That I think people are tired of it. What they want is a good cinematic experience, and that goes to Hollywood. And when you make a movie that you feels like you need to watch it with a crowd, that's when people show up. Endgame, you felt like you wanted to see it that opening week with these people to see how they'd respond and the energy in the room. That's what gets people to show up. Not so much gimmicks. And so I don't know that there's gimmicks that would work for things like that. If you're specifically talking about now how to get people to go to the movies when there's not a lot of movies out there, I think you could do some re-releases of things like Endgame but I don't even with home theaters being as good as they are, I don't even think they don't go for that anymore. When I can watch it in HD in my living room, paying $10 to watch a movie I already own that's already on Disney Plus isn't very appealing. David Patterson, this is not how the apocalypse was supposed to happen. That's true. This apocalypse is not following the way it's supposed to work. Bryce, can you rank the live-action Spider-Man suits? For me, Homecoming is the best and Tobey is the least best. I get asked about ranking Iron Man suits, Spider-Man suits. I might experiment with one of them eventually. I just don't have strong enough opinions. That's the problem. I don't naturally be like, I don't have any ranking in my head, and like at all. Like I'm not crazy about all the Stark tech in the MCU Spider-Man ones. That's the only thought that I really have. So yeah. Landon Peterson, after Scoop comes out, what is the next VOD movie that will come out on its release date? I don't know. I don't know that another one has been announced. So I'm not aware of another theatrical one that's getting a VOD release. So I don't know of another one. I mean, obviously there's all the regular VOD movies, but yeah. Comics Man, do you think that Val Kilmer would have been a better Batman with a better script? Does he suit this type of role? I mean, I think it's not just the script. It's Joel Schumacher, the director. Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, he made the movie he was trying to make. There's movies that are bad because the director tried to do something and they failed to accomplish it. But Joel Schumacher had this vision for this campy, goofy Batman set of movies, and he accomplished making those. So I think it's Joel Schumacher is, you'd say, the problem, or he's at the core of it. And he would tell you that too. The script writers wrote the script that he wanted. Anyway, let's preface that. I think Val Kilmer, he doesn't exactly have the vibe that I think of when I think of Batman. I don't think that's the superhero that I would go for him. But I think he has the physicality and he had the good looks back in the day and the leading man charisma and chops to be a superhero. I don't know that Batman is that one. I haven't seen him as much as successful as kind of a brooding hero. So, even when I was a kid, I didn't think he was the best fit for the role. Procraft, which Bill and Ted movie do you think is better? The original one. I think the original one is a good bit better. They went in a weird direction with the second one. That it's kind of probably pretty polarizing because it's like, they go to hell and they go to heaven. And so it goes from time travel movie to metaphysical movie. And so for some people, they'll love that because it's just so weird and wacky. But for me, I love time travel. So that was not nearly as entertaining of a thing to see that. Caleb, hey Sean, hey. Comics Man, what are your thoughts on Kilgrave from Jessica Jones and the way they ended his arc? I don't. It's been a little bit since I watched some of that. I believe I did a ranking of the. I don't actually remember if I what rankings I did for Netflix shows. So I did a lot of rankings about the Marvel Netflix shows. Um, I like the. I didn't think the stuff where they tried to close out season 3 tying back to him. I didn't think that worked all that well. But I liked season 1 of Jessica Jones, but it's not a show that I've watched recent enough to be able to address what you're referring to, because it's not fresh on my mind. David Patterson, I don't like how some people say that the MCU is all uh, the S word. I try not to cuss too much on my channel. Not that I particularly care too much about not cinema, because it's important for modern day audiences. I started getting really into movies when I found your channel a little over 2 years ago, because I know some MCU breaks with Black Panther, then subscribed to you, and eventually led to me really respecting film and art. Exactly. I think what you're saying right now is exactly what I think Martin Scorsese and some of these comments entirely miss, is that you don't you don't start with Taxi Driver. You don't get a 13-year-old kid into movies with Taxi Driver. That it's not designed for him, and there's a gap there, and so you need something that is very well made, but it's a design for everybody, and that's not a bad thing. Like when people are like, Joker sucks, it's just it's just repackaging Taxi Driver for a broad audience. Like, right, but that's another step. You get people into movies through Fast and the Furious is here, and then you have MCU that I think has a little bit more weight to it than some of the Fast and Furious stuff, and then you have Joker that is both comic booky, but it's also Scorsese light, and you do something like that creates this big a lot of people it's accessible to a lot of people, and then they go, wait, this is influenced by Scorsese. Well, I need to go check out King of Comedy. I need to go check out Mean Streets and Taxi Driver. And that's where it's really disheartening when it undermines the fact that, like, the Marvel movies, that's what's getting my son into this stuff. Like, that's the starting point. Like, there's a lot of people out there that's where it stops. That's unfortunate, but it's the gateway into loving movies, and that's a good thing. David, what are your thoughts on getting a Matrix 4? Do you think that they can course correct, or will they thrills and nostalgia getting new Matrix movie be exciting enough? I have no clue. I need to see a pitch. I need to see a trailer to even know where they're going with it. They wrote themselves into a really bad corner with the second movie that the third movie, of course, couldn't get out of, and it ended at a point in time where you're like, oh, okay. Then it makes it tough to be excited about a fourth movie, because where they ended, the last one wasn't very exciting. It was kind of like, oh, none of this really mattered all that much. So I'm curious, because I just don't know what they're doing, how they're bringing some of these characters back. But at the same time, I can't get all that excited about it either, because they just didn't put themselves in a good place. Is there a movie you think its story would have worked better in other mediums, Batman, a book, comic, video game? I've said for a long time, I think Batman lends himself really well to television, not like a 10-episode, 13-episode arcs. And you can tell a lot of these comic book stories lend themselves better to TV, because he's not Superman. He doesn't fly. You don't need big special effects. You don't need him battling big superpowered villains that can blow up buildings. Batman can be the detective, and so you can actually dig into the character better, his rogues gallery better, have a robust world better when it's a TV show. I think we're seeing with Star Wars that the world is big enough that we want to explore different stories. So The Mandalorian is being better received, and Clone Wars is being better received than some of the movies that are with some of this other stuff. So I'm trying to think if there's something that comes to mind that I think a lot of. No, I don't have another thought. So those are some of my quick thoughts on what comes to mind. Rich Reviews, will you get annoyed if YouTube gets rid of people's playlists? I would be infuriated if people got rid of playlists. Like, it would be infuriating to me. I optimized my videos for a very long period of time for playlists. And in my videos, I constantly say, if you enjoyed this video, check out this playlist right over here. And if they got rid of playlist, they just screwed me over. There's like, I'd have to fix hundreds of videos to link not to a playlist to a video. And I've optimized my channel for playlists, and that would be infuriating if they got rid of playlists. I can't imagine what the benefit to them would be to get rid of playlists, but I would be livid if they did that. Matt G, what's the movie that never got a sequel that should have? Edge of Tomorrow, Masters of the Universe, Dread. It'd fun to see a cliffhanger too. I don't know what you could do with that one, but seeing that character again, um, there's a number of them that come to mind at this moment. But I'm sure I'd have a better one if I could stop and think about it. That's a video that I'll make at some point in time. Christian Arnold, what was your favorite video to make? Oh shoot, I forgot. I just had a video go live that hopefully I didn't screw up. Sorry, real quick. I've got to make sure that my video is not messed up. It went live, and actually the one on here went live too. Oh, it's doing well. So cool. All right. Doesn't seem like people are mad at me. Chris, what's your favorite video? What's your favorite video to make? The most satisfying ones are the ones where I put a lot of time into it. So the canceled Spider-Man video that I did. Some of the how to fix videos are very satisfying, but they're all ones that are harder to make. They're ones that require some research, and I just can't crank them out like I can some of the other stuff. That's the stuff for me that I think is most satisfying. And when I think best, that's what, or my favorites, that's what comes to mind. But yeah, my one of my real favorites is that one that was my canceled Spider-Man movies. Rich Reviews. Apparently, I found a podcast that discusses each episode of Unsolved Mysteries. That's a great segue to tell you a family story. There's a section on Unsolved Mysteries about my family. If you guys don't know what Unsolved Mysteries is a TV show from the 90s, basically about real life stories, some of them murders, some of them like ghost stories that are unsolved mysteries. And there was one that was about my my great great grandmother's murder in the year 1910. And it's on there, and like apparently some third cousin of mine got a psychic to look in to try and find the burial and stuff like that. Really wild, crazy, weird stuff. But there's a section on there about my family. Sorry, real quick, I'm gonna keep talking. I just needed to make a post. I need to pin a comment on my new video that went live. So very sorry for the delay right now, but we went a little bit long, so I just need to post this real quick. Sorry. I was supposed to do how to fix Attack of the Clones today, and I didn't get that done in time. So I just wanted to pin a comment on the video I did make. Sorry about that. Very sorry. Ethan, do you have any other not obvious movie suggestions like or answering that one? Have you seen Ozark? No, I've not seen Ozark. Haven't seen any of it. I've seen the previews, but I haven't watched any of it. Matt G, did you ever own a Laserdisc? No, I never owned a Laserdisc. I'm not an early adopter on a lot of that technology because I'm a little bit too cheap to buy it when it's a premium price. And so then if it's a premium price, then I kind of I don't get it yet. Ethan, what's your favorite Tom Cruise movie? Mine is Mission Impossible Fallout. Top Gun's way up there, and like there's the Mission Impossible franchise as a whole. There's about 5 of them that I think are pretty fantastic. Edge of Tomorrow is great. Some of his other 90s. Last Samurai, I love Last Samurai. The Firm is really good. I mean, he's one of the great movie stars. Like that guy, he can act, and he's a great entertainer. And so, I've got a bunch of them. Tom's Productions. Are you ever going to rewatch the High School Musical movies? If my kids like them, possibly. So my wife hated the movies as we were watching them, and then she started watching the TV show for some reason afterwards and loved it. So she's been rewatching the TV show a good bit with my daughter. So I'm sure I'll rewatch them with my kids. It'll be like in that kind of context. Christian Arnold, Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts, or Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? In my household, probably Harry Potter, because my wife's a Harry Potter person. So then it just kind of leans a little bit more in that direction. Gamerman, which Quicksilver do you think is better, MCU or X-Men franchise? I mean, the X-Men one gets a little bit more standout sequences because some of those are just so fun when he's doing the fast stuff, especially in Days of Future Past. I think I would go with MCU though. I wish we got more of him. I really do. My wife really likes that actor. I'm blanking on his name at the moment. Really likes him, and so she's so frustrated that they killed him off so fast. Which is better, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire or Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith? I'm not a Harry Potter person, so by default I'm gonna go with Star Wars. I'm just not a Harry Potter person. So if I'm going to an island and I'm taking one of those two, it's going to be Star Wars. So I'm just not the best person to ask on some of that. Which is better? Whoop, didn't click on that one. Which is better, Superman Quest for Peace or Batman and Robin? So Batman and Robin, it was a better version of what the director wanted to do. Like Joel Schumacher made the movie he wanted to make. Now, he made a movie no one else wanted. It was just a very weird interpretation of Batman. It was way too campy. It was both too childish in its humor, but also like had a lot of sexual innuendo and nipples, which is a weird mix. But the one that I watch a lot more is Superman for the Quest for Peace. I have a lot of nostalgia. So if I'm going to an island and I either get Batman and Robin or Superman 4, I'm definitely taking Superman 4. But it's a bad movie. It's a bad movie that I know is a bad movie that I would take anyway. Which is better, Star Wars: Attack of the Clones or Mission Impossible 2? Mission Impossible 2, I think, is the better movie. I think that Attack of the Clones is devoid of a real story that makes any sense and has a unwatchable romance. It's like a movie without a story and at its center a bad romance. Whereas Mission Impossible 2 is a very uneven movie. Like there's no action for an hour and then it's 45 minutes straight of John Woo action. I love John Woo action, so I'm also that's gonna help quite a bit. But at the same time, I probably watch Attack of the Clones more just because it's Star Wars. And I watched Attack of the Clones 2 days ago. It's my son's favorite Star Wars movie because he loves the clone troopers and everything like that. But yeah. Which is better, Die Hard with a Vengeance or Fate of the Furious? Oh, Die Hard with a Vengeance by probably a lot. That's like an action classic, a great sequel. And Fate of the Furious is like, oh yeah, another Fast and Furious movie, not one of the better ones, but dumb fun, versus Die Hard with a Vengeance, the great sequel to the other movies. Gamerman, which is better, Thor: The Dark World or Apocalypse? Probably Thor: The Dark World. I mean, they have their problems beyond just the bad villain with both of those movies. Gamerman, which is better, Spider-Man 3? Spider-Man 3 or Superman Returns? Superman Returns, I think. I've just fly through these real quick because I don't mean, like, obviously you can ask a lot of questions, but I prefer it if you didn't. And I don't like to answer 6 questions in a row from one person while not answering ones from other people because it's a little bit at one time dominating the conversation. Which is better, Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker, Matrix Revolutions? Rise of Skywalker. Matrix Revolutions just totally. It's poorly executed in certain ways, and it's like, why would you take the mythology in this direction? I didn't mind the way that they took the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. I just don't think it was executed very well. And which is better, Empire Strikes Back or Raiders of the Lost Ark? Top 2 of the best movies of the 80s. I think I've got a video where I answered that, where I had to pick between them. Ethan, how long do you think they will keep making Mission Impossible movies? Tom Cruise is already 57. I think my guess is the reason that the reason that they are shooting 7 and 8 back to back is because they want to close out the franchise before he's 60. I think they're trying to close it out because for that reason of his age, and he's getting too old, or they're trying to find a way to ease it out because it's weird for him to keep going after 60, even though he's obviously still in his prime. Majestic Demon, let's calm down on the questions. I don't mean to. Obviously, I want to be able to answer everybody's questions, but if you ask 8 in a row, like literally like that, it means that that's other people's questions that aren't getting answered. And like right now, there's only 8 people in here, but there were like 16 people, so I want to try and balance it out. So like I said, I want to be able to answer everybody's questions, and we're already at an hour and a half. I try to keep these at an hour, so I prefer to not do kind of 8 in a row like that. There, Patterson, do you think James Bond will die in No Time to Die? I think it's possible. I think that they might go there with it to close out, to really have this as its own continuity that stands on its own and tell a full story that ends. Because he's retired before and stuff like that, but definitively killing him off, I think, would make it distinct. Toy Story. I hate Toy Story 4. It's my least favorite Toy Story movie. I gave it a 90%. This word hate and 90%, the universe, I'm so confused. But yeah, I think that's the truth to how good the franchise is that the worst one is still really, really good. Tom's Productions. At first, I was that stupid guy who called you an idiot because of where you are on Guardians 2. But over time, I became to see your reasoning. But I still think Guardians 2 more than you. And I don't want to take away anyone's enjoyment of it. That's not my goal. My goal isn't to be like, I don't like it, you guys should hate it too. I just want people to understand where I'm coming from. If you love it, awesome. And I hope you keep loving it. But for me, it did a lot of things that were very frustrating, that hurt a lot of the mythology for me and put a sour taste in my mouth. And I just want people to understand where I'm coming from. It's that when people just kind of snap at me and it's like, I just told you why. Like, do you want me to lie to you and say that I liked a movie that I didn't? I'm not trying to hate on it or anything like that. I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to. Luke, have you stopped watching Arrowverse shows after Crisis, or are you still watching? I haven't watched anything since the Arrow finale. I'll finish out this season of Flash, Link, and try and do a ranking of the seasons when it's done. I guess I need to catch up on that because I guess it's going to be pretty soon. But it was the 1-2 punch of the disappointment of Crisis and then the Arrow finale. I just stopped watching. David Patterson, I have Deadpool 2 higher in my ranking, even though I thought the first one was better. Well, I mean, if it's the one you like more, that's totally fine. David Patterson, I love Chris Evans in the MCU, but I thought his acting was better in Knives Out. Yeah, I mean, that's certain roles give you a little bit more to do. David Patterson, what is your TikTok called? No clue. I think just my name. I don't know. Maybe it's more than that. TikTok. Me. Sean Chandler 83 is my name. Sean Chandler 83. There's not much on there. Not much to follow. Not looking to do much with it, but Sean Chandler 83. Tom's Productions, did you see Universal buy Lego? I heard, yes, that the rights had swapped. Yes. David Patterson, should I watch Goodfellas soon? I have only seen one Scorsese movie, The Irishman. It ended up being my 24th favorite movie of all time. Yeah, I mean, like Scorsese seems like he's going to be right up your alley. Like I would assume that if you dive into the Scorsese filmography, you will find a bunch of movies that you love that will be on your top 30 list. Majestic Demon, this is not directed to you, Sean. Follow me on TikTok if you want. I read it, even though it's not directed at me. Christian Arnold, what's your favorite YouTuber? Not necessarily movies. My family watches a ton of Dude Perfect. That's like part of our family rhythm. Monday nights, what's the new Dude Perfect? I watch a lot of pitch meetings. Love Ryan George's stuff. I think he's really funny. It's good analysis. He's someone I tried to get on my podcast. He's actually not allowed to. That's kind of what happened. He's not allowed to. I've been watching a lot of Joe Blow's what WTF happened to this movie, like stuff like that. And Dave Ramsey. Watch a ton of Dave Ramsey. David Patterson, I was excited to see Scoob in the theaters. David Patterson, have you seen a B movie? Actually, I haven't. I own it, but I haven't seen it. Christian Arnold, what you said about kids going to the movies so right. I'm a 14-year-old that loves his favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption, but that I wouldn't be the case without you and others YouTubers introducing. And that's what I think some people really miss about what my channel is. I love the MCU. I love Star Wars. These are these big franchises that's the entry point to kind of get people in. And then I do videos where I talk about my favorite movies and I introduce you to a lot of those big franchise things from the 80s and the 70s and the 90s that for a lot of you, it was from 20, 30 years before you were born. Some of it before I was born. And you get introduced to it. You go a little bit deeper. And I start raving about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So you look into Tarantino, you start watching his movies. Or you watch Christopher Nolan, you're like, I really like some of this stuff. There's some deeper storytelling here. And so then you check out Tarantino. You like Tarantino, so you check out Scorsese. And you just kind of keep going deeper and deeper into it because of me and all these others. But it starts with this big stuff that everybody likes, the MCU, Star Wars, and that's kind of what feeds the machine. That's why, I actively tried to leverage my platform to promote the movie Warrior because it's a movie I loved that was underseen. So I talked about it a bunch in a couple of these videos that were hits. So a bunch of people were introduced to a movie they never would have even heard of otherwise. And so I'll have people like frequently be like, dude, you do all these Marvel movies. Why don't you cover real cinema? It's like, well, first off, I do. It's not hit content. So I try and find a way to talk about it on a video that people will watch. Like, why do I do videos where I rank every movie that I saw that month? Because my reviews of those movies are not watched. They're my weakest performing ones of some of these smaller films that I'm excited about. Like, I saw Upgrade when it came out. Review didn't do all that great. And now that Invisible Man's getting all this buzz, people are like, hey, have you seen Upgrade? Have you seen Upgrade? And so I'm always trying to find ways to, how do I keep pointing people to these other things that they don't naturally know about. That's why I do a bunch of the content that I do. And it's all part of a strategy to kind of have broad appeal and other things as well. So anyway, David Patterson, I guess to close things out, feel like the people who haven't seen Die Hard feel like it's just another big dumb action movie when it really isn't that at all. Well, I guess, you probably would have a better perspective on that than I do. I'm old enough that, by the time I was into movies, Die Hard was already well respected and one of those movies that, you're like, if you were me, Die Hard came out when I was like 6 or 7. And so it was like, oh, what's that rated R movie? I want to check that out. And then one of the first rated R movies I was able to see in the theater was Die Hard with a Vengeance. And so then, it's always been special to me and people my age. Everybody my age thinks that Die Hard is amazing. Or you're the weird contrarian if you're like, oh, it's overrated. If you're my age. But if you're younger, you just don't like action movies aren't really popular now. Blockbusters that have action are wildly popular, but there's like a cynicism towards straight up action movies. So you'd probably have a better perspective on some of those kind of people that are your age, like, oh, just another stupid action movie. Like, no, like this is where modern action movies we know of came from. David Patterson, what is your favorite movie that takes place in a courtroom? A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men is my favorite courtroom movie. With Tom Cruise. Oh, I forgot that his favorite Tom Cruise movies, A Few Good Men. There you go. Another one that I absolutely would throw in there. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys supporting me over here is like actually making a big difference right now. Kind of while quarantine, no new movies coming out. The support of Patreon is becoming a nice foundation that's stable, where YouTube is very unstable right now. You guys are kind of that rock kind of helping up. And I really do appreciate it. And want to make sure that you know that joining over here, supporting everything really helps. And then also being to have friendly conversations over here greatly, a nice plus for me. So keep talking movies too much.